Hey, how's it going, guys? Someone hit my inbox 2 days ago or less, I don't remember. And he asked me my opinion when it comes to soloing and what scales to play of a certain chords and whatever, and specifically why those, and just wanting to pick my brain on what to play where and when, especially when you're soloing and improvising. And it got me to think that there are not too many proper things out there on the internet today, and the ones that are there are very confusing. You get demoralized. You just don't want to do it at all, just because of how crazy it is. So the purpose for me making this video is to try and break not everything down, because there's so many scales out there, but I want to break the most commonly played scales, the ones that you will find on probably more than 80% of solos by the greats. It could be anybody from Chick Corea to John Coltrane, his wife Alice Coltrane, Herbie Hancock, Miles Davis, anybody, name them, Cannonball Adderley, the whole spectrum of all the bad jazz cats. And what you should know is that they don't just play random notes. They don't just, blow away a couple of crazy things to make it seem complicated. If actually you were to transcribe their solos and analyze, sorry, something's in my eye, I don't know what it is, and you're to transcribe their solos, you would actually find that at the back of their minds, they know exactly what the chord is, the chord progression at that same time, and they're exploring with different extensions and colors and all this cool stuff. But it is surprisingly very calculated. Nothing is thrown randomly, and that's the purpose of this video. I just want to break down a few of those concepts into 2-5-1s. We should all agree by now that every chord progression can be broken up into minor 2-5-1 or a major 2-5-1. It doesn't matter how long or how crazy your chord progression is. When you analyze it properly, it will all boil down to being a minor 2-5-1 or a major 2-5-1. Yes, we have instances of very extended 2-5s, 2-5-1s, or perhaps sometimes you have substitutions, sometimes you have secondary dominance. That's why you have like the 5 of this, 5 of 5 or 5 of 5 of 5, 5 of 2, 5 of 3, 5 of 4, 5 of 5, all those, but it all boils down to 2-5-1s. I'm going to break this video down into 4 categories: minor chords, dominant chords, major 7 chords, and minor 7 2-5-1. Let me explain. The chord quality of a major 2-5-1, the 2 is a minor 7, the 5 is a dominant 7, and the 1 is a major 7. The chord quality of a minor 2-5-1, the 2 is a minor 7 flat 5, the 5 is also a dominant 7, and the 1 is a minor 7. That's why I'm going to break it down into those 4 chords. We have the major 7, the minor 7, the dominant 7, which will have the most examples because the dominant 7 can happen in both the major 2-5-1 and the minor 2-5-1. And the last category is going to be the minor 7 flat 5. It sounds confusing, but trust me, I'll try my best to make it easy to play and understand. All right, let's get going. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to say that me making this video, I'm assuming that you have slightly more than basic music theory knowledge. There's some words I'm going to throw out there that I may not explain much. There's some concepts that I will assume you already know, like the names of the notes, perhaps even the modes of music, just a couple of other things that you should already know before watching this video for it to make perfect sense for you. If something doesn't make sense, you could ask me directly, or you could just Google it, right? All right, let's get going. All right, here we go. I'm going to be in the key of C for simplicity, but it goes without saying that we should practice these in all 12 keys. That's the only way you can get better. You can't just be in one bracket, right? Remember the 4 categories of chords that we play these over. We have the major 7, we have the minor 7, we have the dominant 7, and the minor 7 flat 5. So let's start with the major 7. So for C major 7, which is this, the first obvious scale is that's the C major scale, or the Ionian mode. We should all know that. We could also play the C Lydian. I'm going to explain the modes here in a little bit. Let me just get this out of the way first. What else can we do with the C major 7? We could also, some people like to alter this chord from a C major 7. They like to make it like a C major 7 with a sharp 5. You could still play the Lydian scale over that, or you can actually play the augmented scale. To construct the augmented scale, it's just a series of minor thirds and half steps. So we have a minor third from C, and then a half step. Then we have a minor third, and then a half step, and then a minor third, and then a half step. So you have this, that's a C augmented scale. You can play that over that major 7 sharp 5 or augmented. Moving on to the second category of chords, we have the minor 7. So what scales can we play over this C minor 7? We could play the melodic minor scale, C melodic minor. That's a C melodic minor scale. We could also play the C Dorian scale. We could play the C Aeolian. We could also try to play the C Phrygian. All of those spell out this C minor 7. When we talk about modes, basically what we're referring is you're playing a major scale starting from a certain degree to the higher octave, right? So C Ionian is playing the scale of C major from the first degree all the way up. Or that's Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do, right? Now C Dorian would be playing from the second degree to the second degree. That would make it as though we're in B flat. So you're playing Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do, Re. C Phrygian would be playing from the third scale degree to the third scale degree. So we're assuming we're in A flat. So Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do, Re, Mi. And likewise, C Lydian would assume you're in G. You're playing from the fourth. So from the Fa to the Fa. C Mixolydian will assume we're in F. So you're playing from the So to the So. C Aeolian would assume we are in the key of E flat, playing from the La to the La. C Locrian will assume we're in the key of D flat, playing from the T to the T. So that would be, and that's just all you should know about the modes. Okay, so moving over to the third category of chords, that's the dominant 7, which is that. This can be the 5 of in both the minor 251 and the major 251. The most obvious scale we can use for this is the Mixolydian, which is that. We could also use the Lydian flat 7. So that basically means we have a Lydian, but we just add the flat 7 rather than the natural 7. So we have the flat 7. That's the Lydian flat 7. We could also use, what else? Like a flat 9 with a flat 13. C Mixolydian flat 9, flat 13. That's the best way to describe it because it has that note also, the flat 7. So remember we have the Mixolydian scale. We're adding the flat 9 and the flat 13 to that. And that will be, instead of the natural 9, we skip, instead of the natural 9, we have the flat 9 and then we skip it and go to the third. That's the C Mixolydian, flat 9, flat 13. We could also use the whole tone scale. This is not too common, but some people use it. The reason it's called a whole tone scale is because it's just a series of whole tones, one after the other, all the way. It's an interesting sound. What else can we use? We could use the diminished half whole scale. Let's construct that together. So it's a series of half whole, then we have a half whole, half whole. So we have the that's a half, then the whole, then the half, then the whole, half, whole, half. So this is C diminished half whole scale. I'm going to show you what chords to play over this. Let's first learn the chords and then we will let's learn the scales first and then we'll learn what chords to play them over. A very common scale that people like to play on the dominant 7 is called the altered scale. Now the altered scale can also be called a superlocrian. It can also be called a diminished whole tone scale, and the reason is, well, let's construct it first. Let me play that slowly. If you notice that the first 4 notes are the first 4 notes of a whole, of a diminished whole half scale, but then the next 4 are part of the whole tone scale. Another way to think of this is it is the 7th degree of the harmonic minor scale that is of the melodic minor scale that is 1 step higher. So if we're looking to construct the C altered scale, we could technically just play C sharp melodic minor scale, but starting from the 7th degree to the 7th degree. That's how we can construct that. It's a very interesting sound because it has all the alterations you can possibly think of, all the extensions. It has a flat 9, it has a sharp 9, it has a sharp 11, and it has flat 13. There is very few scales that can give you all of that color all together, as well as a flat 7. Yeah, so that's the altered scale. Some people like to play the mixolydian with the flat 6, which is the sound. It's an interesting color, especially like if you're playing it over a chord like the C7 with the sharp 5. Not too common, but yes, there is that. Something I forgot to mention, I'm just thinking of it now that we're already here. Remember the scale that I told you about, the C mixolydian, flat 9, flat 13? This scale. Another way to think of this type of scale is you play the fifth mode of a harmonic minor scale. So the 5th mode would assume that if you want to play the C mixolydian flat 9, flat 13, we assume we're in the key of F. And all we have to do is to construct the F harmonic minor scale. But we just start from the 5th degree all the way up to the 5th degree. So that's just another way, a colorful way of thinking of all of this. Lastly, the last category of chords we want to play over, this is the minor 7 flat 5, and this is that 2 minor 7 flat 5 of the chord progression of a minor 2-5-1. So they're just two basic chords, basic scales that we should know. The first one obviously is the Locrian. If we're going to play the C Locrian scale, we assume we are playing from the 7th scale degree to the 7th scale degree. So we assume we're in C sharp or D flat and just play from the T to the T. We've spoken about this already. So this will be this. No, sorry. Alternatively, we could alter this by doing this. This is that it gives it this natural 2 sound rather than having a flat 2. So the reason why we cannot use the altered scale on this is that the altered scale has the major third sound. It has a clash of both the minor third and the major sound. If that's what you're looking for, go for it. But it sounds much better to just keep it with the Locrian, whether the regular Locrian or the Locrian with this natural 2 sound. Yeah, what chords can we play over these? I've already told you about the this C sharp, this C7 with a sharp 5. We could play the whole tone scale over this chord. We could also play the, can we try the mixolydian flat 6? Yes, we can. We can do the mixolydian, and then we have this that goes over the C7 with a sharp 5. C7 sharp 11. That is this chord. Beautiful sound. Beautiful sound. We can play the Lydian dominant, and so that would be this, the Lydian scale or mode, just with the flat 7. And that will cover the beautiful sound of C7 with a sharp 11 up here. C7 sharp 9, this sound, let me try and see if I can stretch it. This C7 sharp 9 sound, we could play the half whole diminished scale. So now this will have both the minor third and the major third. Remember how we constructed it? So that's a C half whole to play over the C7 with the sharp 9. We could also have the C7 with the flat 9, which is that sound. The best scale to play over this is the C Mixolydian flat 9, flat 13. And different alterations. Where can we put the altered? I haven't spoken about the altered. Remember, the altered scale is the 7th degree of the melodic minor, that is one half step above the scale that you want to construct, the key that you want to construct. We could play this same chord, the C7 with the sharp 11. Remember, we said you can already play the Lydian dominant over this, which is this. But we could also play that altered over the same chord. One very important reason why many jazz musicians love to play the notes of the diminished scale, whether it's the C whole half or the C half whole, is because both of those scales have 8 notes. Let's pick one of them. For example, let's pick the whole half, for example. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then you're back to the top, or the other way around for the C half whole. They all have 8 notes, and why that's a favorite for many musicians, many jazz musicians, is because the fact that there are 8 notes. When you play the scale over a constant 4/4 beat, the chord tones, the notes of the chord tone will land on the strong beats of 1 and 3, as compared to, let's say, if you're playing a scale like the C major scale, and you were to play the scale. Remember, the chord tones, assuming we're playing a major 7, 1, 3, 5, and 7, will not always land on beat 1 and 3. They'll not always land on the strong beats. But in the context of the diminished scales, the chord tones will always land on the strong beats. That's also another reason why the bebop scales, we should also be familiar with the bebop scales. I'm not going to go into that in this video, but we should all know the bebop scales. And so on and so forth. It's about 6 of them, but those also can line up just the addition of that extra note in the scale lines up the chord tones on the strong beats of 1 and 3, and that's a huge favorite. So I just thought you'd know that. But that's, by the way, that's something for another day. I hope I've not been too complicated here. I just tried to make this as simple as I could. Granted, I got distracted a few places here and there. But again, if you have any questions, just shoot them. I will be very glad to help break this down for you better. I myself am just getting a hang of this. It's not perfect, but it's better. It gets better every day. All right, peoples. I guess that's it. I'll see you in the shed. Bye bye.